This year, for some reason, it was a banner year for screech owls, and we had a particular group of 4 that became famous on our YouTube video. One was caught by a cat. 2 came to us because somebody had cut down a tree, and unfortunately the babies had been nesting in there. And the 4th was simply found on the ground, emaciated, and we were unable to locate the nest to reunite with the parents.
WildCare treats between 3,000 and 4,000 wild animals every year. Everything from the tiniest baby hummingbird up to the largest coyote. And they have very, very different needs.
So in WildCare's clinic, I don't think people realize how much we do with such a small space. If you can imagine treating 3,000 to 4,000 animals within this hospital, we have Ward A, which is the room behind you, and down the hall is Ward B, Ward C, and then the bird room down the hall. And that's it as far as our hospital space. And it's really impressive how much we can do.
It's actually very amazing that all the things that we do are done in this facility, but we could do so much more with a larger, more modern, accessible space.
This is our medical room, and as you can see, this is a very small area for us to work in.
One of the things that we would be able to do with a new facility is to expand our education programs significantly.
A larger facility would not only allow us to serve more people on site, of course, but will provide the capacity to have more staff members, more volunteers who are very important to WildCare, to serve schools and community members.
A good example of why we need more space is our museum. You walk into our museum, we want it to be open to the public all day long. It's also our conference room, our training room, our room for classrooms, and sometimes, more often than not, we have the need to do a lot of those things concurrently. Well, we can't.
And we need to have the capacity to serve more people, not only here in Marin County, but all across the Bay Area.
And on less than half an acre, it's quite remarkable that we are able to touch 40,000 children a year through our education programs.
Uno agarra la bolsita.
More than 4,000 animals through our hospital, and yet it's a very, very small physical space.
And as you can see, we have very limited space outside because we are in downtown San Rafael. Unfortunately, I don't think that most people realize that more than half of our patients are treated off-site.
A perfect example is for screech owls that we had come in. As these owls went through their treatment plan, they needed the space to be outside and fly and do owl things, and we did not have the space. We don't have the space.
Our large mammals like coyotes, foxes, skunks, again, we can stabilize and keep small numbers of them here, but because our cage size is so limited, they are sent to other facilities to be treated.
Which, in that situation, we can't provide the quality of care, the monitoring that you would receive if these animals were on site being taken care of by our dedicated staff.
We treat over 100 birds of prey a year, and we have a very large off-site aviary, but we only have 1. Our fawns, we can't raise fawns in the middle of the city. They need land, obviously, so they go off to another center.
But it really would be ideal if we were able to put together a much more state-of-the-art hospital facility, for example, where you don't have predator species in cages right next to prey species.
And during baby season, when you have lots of animals backed up waiting for their time in the flight cage before release, that's when you end up with incidental injuries like broken feathers or injuries on their feet from being on perches too long. So this year, with our banner number of screech owls, we luckily had a very dedicated volunteer, Doug, who was able to put up a temporary cage at his home, and they spent their time building up their endurance and their strength, agility, before they were ready for release. And a lot of us gathered at Doug's place, and we let him open the door and let the owls go, and eventually they all found their wings and flew off into the trees surrounding Doug's property, and it was just a great night.
Today, the vision for wildlife and for WildCare and what it can be is bigger than the current footprint upon which our physical facility sits.
What I see WildCare being is the perfect coming together of the natural world and the world of people. A place where you can see how we are all meant to live together, coexist, and thrive together, wildlife and people.